So, let's go.
What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about PlayStation because Sony has just released some detailed financial reports as to how good
Why is
or
it so
bad they're
quiet?
doing. Now, it does seem like, for the most part, the PS5 is
Okay,
in
let's
a
go back.
What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about PlayStation
Hey, the
because
controller's back.
Sony
Really want to watch
has
this
just
creator case
released
from the beginning
some
again?
detailed financial reports as to how good or bad they're doing. Now, it does seem like, for the most part, the PS5 is in a very healthy spot. They're selling games, they're prepping for some secret acquisitions, they just announced a new CEO, so for the most part, things are good, but there is
Wait. What secret acquisitions are they planning? And what makes them... What secret acquisitions are we talking about?
I mean, if they're secret acquisitions, he would know about them. And the only acquisitions that we know about is Paramount.
I mean, that's not a secret, though. Ah! Yes! They're trying to buy the PlayStation Showcase because they can't make one.
Is some sprinkling of negative that people seem to be laser focusing upon. So let's discuss. Hi, I hope you're having a great day. If you could, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So we're going to dig through the entire financial report because it is actually pretty in-depth and there is certain parts of it I do want to sort of break down and explain to you guys. But here's the main chart I feel like people are kind of roasting, if I'm being honest. PS5 sales are down 29% year over year in the recent quarter. Sony said they were trying to sell 21 million units. They ended up selling 20.8 million units in all of 2023.
That's not entirely true, though, because the original prediction was 25 million, and they had to reduce it down to 21 million because they knew they would never hit that target. So that was already a reduction from what they were planning.
So honestly, that's still a pretty big sales chunk. I mean,
But 21 million is
difficult
still
to
good.
disregard 20 million console sales in a single year, but apparently they're trying to sell at least 18 million units this year. So people are kind of saying, all right, well, how bad is this? A lot of people are saying, okay, how does this compare to Microsoft? Of course, Microsoft is doing even worse.
Why do we have to compare it to Microsoft? I mean, at the end of the day, if you have to compare yourself to someone else to be able to justify the fact that you are actually doing well, then you're not doing well. You're either doing well or you're not. It's really that simple. If you have to turn around and compare yourself to another platform that we know that their console sales are down year on year, that's a pretty pathetic look, if you ask me. Why isn't he comparing it to Nintendo Switch, which is generally up year on year? Because that doesn't support the narrative.
The Xbox is terrible. Obviously, Tom Warren loves to try and spin any Sony news to be as negative as possible. Now, I'm not even...
That is not true. I called him the British Red Dragon, and he blocked me for it.
Bagging on Tom Warren. Apparently, this guy
deserve that, to
doesn't
be
like
fair.
me. I don't know. A couple years ago, I said this guy sucks Phil Spencer's toes, and they sent that to him, and he got real pissed. So, Tom, if you see this, no offense. I'm just saying that you're definitely an Xbox aficionado. But
Hey, by the way, Tom, if you see this as well, I totally didn't mean what I said. I did say it was bad. You can unblock me now.
I have seen people explain the fact that this being down is not necessarily the instant doom and gloom that people are trying to paint it on certain corners of the internet. They're definitely not in crisis mode. They barely sold under their own internal projections, so that's pretty good. Also, the longer a console's out, typically year over year, you see a slight decline where, the first year, every single person that's been saving up, that's hyped for it, usually that first year is the most blockbuster, but things were very peculiar with the PlayStation 5 and with the Xbox Series X because during the pandemic, it came out in 2020, and there was extreme console shortages. So what's weird is that for 2020, they were not able to sell as many as they wanted. 2021, they finally hit what I felt like was their original attended slate of production. But as time's gone on, Like, I feel like everybody that wants a PlayStation 5 can now get it. I think not only is 21 million consoles sold a huge number, but I think it's a testament to the fact that now PlayStation is finally hitting its production stride. But here's a part of the game that I think sort of worries me the most. This entire financial report, we're not going to go through all these numbers because honestly, there's a ton of it. But the two parts of it that were the most interesting to me is that they did say, hey, we're trying to pivot our focus because right now we are not expecting to sell any first party games for all of fiscal year 2024. Now, keep in mind,
that means no first party. Wait, does that mean Concord is not coming this year? If they're not looking to sell,
that's what it sounds like to me.
Any,
because that was the only first party that they had this year.
Yeah. So does this mean that Concord is officially pushed to 2025 as well? Oh shit!
Very well, might be. They don't expect sales. Well, they don't expect sales increase from first party games because they only have the one.
Well, yeah. I mean, damn.
Meaning expect major first party titles to launch from April 2025 and onwards.
That's
which we know that the first game that's going to come out is Venom. All the ripped content from Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, that's in 25. I still think that's going to go day and date to PC. We'll see if I'm right or wrong.
This is a financial report. You can't lie on these. You can like skew the numbers a bit and try and trump up certain figures over other figures, but they're straight up saying they're not going to be launching any major first party games from April all the way to April 2025. So that does suck. You know, obviously I'm a big fan.
That doesn't even say that. Where is he adding this information? It just says 2025 onwards. Part? They don't mean.
Well, it says fiscal year 25.
Yeah, no, but it says from April. Oh, April 2020. Never mind, I'm stupid.
Of PlayStation exclusives because they have done good ones. God of War, Uncharted, The Last of Us, that stuff has been fantastic. And while I am excited about the success of something like Helldivers 2, I want to see that big AAA blockbuster power. Now, additionally, you do notice they actually talk about the fact that they're working on an acquisition budget. Look at this. Sony Group is also setting aside $11.5 billion for investments and acquisitions over the next few years.
Didn't they already do this last time? They set aside $8 billion and they bought a bunch of studios, then closed them down because they didn't make a single game. But no one complained about those, right? No one complained about those. No outcry, no outrage, no nothing. They bought these studios. They brought them into the PlayStation family. I mean, if we're looking at, what was that other studio? I can't remember its name. But they systematically dismantled them and absolutely destroyed their working culture and then closed the studio. I think they were the VR studio. Someone in chat will remind me, but they were the VR, their primary VR studio. They completely and utterly destroyed them.
I will say,
internally.
Given Helldivers 2, the debacle that it was, and the upcoming Ghost of Tsushima, which is going to be their first fully integrated MAU platform with the PSN login and stuff. If that goes well, I agree with him. The next game that they have come out that's brand new day and date on PC that's a single player game, such as Venom or even Concord, if they do it right, then that's going to be the first true test of whether or not they're going to continue to do day and date or not.
Yep, that's my.
Because he was saying that he's waiting for that AAA blockbuster, and the Venom game is going to be the first test of it.
Yep.
Now, that is company-wide. I think sometimes in the talk about console wars and stuff, people kind of forget that obviously Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony are very different beasts. Nintendo just makes games. Sony makes stuff like laptops, cell phones, TVs. They make movies. There's Sony Pictures, and of course the PS5, whereas Xbox
and
makes
cameras.
Windows. They make Word. They make terrible texting apps. So everybody kind of has their side projects. If they're setting aside 11...
Why can he not say anything about Xbox without demeaning it? I mean, just look at that face. But why can he not say a single thing about Xbox? without actually adding a negative connotation to it. It's almost like he's allergic.
11.5 billion. This could be them buying music studios. It could be them trying to do all sorts of stuff. But from my own reading of these financial reports, I do think those acquisitions are probably going to be them buying game studios. Now, is that good or bad? Honestly, the closures of the Xbox game studios recently, the fact that Microsoft keeps buying stuff like, obviously the Bethesda buyout, the Activision Blizzard buyout, and now those studios are getting shut down and torn apart piece by piece. As much as I think PlayStation is better run than Xbox, I still don't think I'm a big fan of the idea of PlayStation. I think buying exclusivity deals, I think I'm a big fan of. I think I'm pretty against now. I don't think that Sony should be buying studios. I'm not sure anybody should be buying studios at this.
So where's the talk about all the studios that Sony have closed? Why is it only Xbox? Where's the studios like, Japan Studio and whatnot that they closed? Where's all this? They're not immune to this shit. They've done it themselves.
This point, but here we go. So we're now at a total of 59.3 million consoles sold. That's not shipped. That's 59.3 million consoles sold, which is truly insane. PS5 is now slightly below the PlayStation 4 sales. Launches aligned. The PS4 at this point had sold 60 million. So literally 700,000 below one of the biggest consoles of all time. Now, I've mentioned this in videos a while back, but I still think the Xbox One, the freaking PlayStation 4 generation, the 7th gen, I think was fascinating because video games became suddenly much more mainstream. It did feel like a lot of people started to game for the first time ever, starting with the PlayStation 4 generation. Just bored dudes in their 20s picking up a console in college for the first time. So the fact that the PlayStation 5 is actually keeping up with the PS4 sales even this much, to me, I do genuinely think that is a testament to just the overwhelming popular of the PS5. So here's an interesting part of it, though, is that it sounds like they want to attempt something slightly different for the rest of this console generation, and they said something I've never seen Sony state before, which is that they're trying to make great games. Okay, that's the typical PR speak, but they want to try and increase console sales. Obviously, they're trying to make more first-party software and PC development, but they also said they're trying to get more player engagement, more people to try and just spend more time on the console, whether it is these first-party games like Horizon or third-party stuff. Now, the reason I think
they're not saying console, they're just saying people playing games. And the easiest way to get people playing more games, or your games, is number one, to have those games available in every single country, and number two, to release them day and date. Because if you don't release them day and date, and people don't want to buy a PS5 because it's going to come to the PC at a later point, then you're going to lose engagement. And if you don't release it to those 177, you're still going to lose engagement.
Absolutely.
I think this is interesting is because I do think this is sort of like, it feels like you can feel the motif, the motivations of Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation beginning to take these separate lanes. Xbox just wants you to sign up for Game Pass. Nintendo just wants you to buy anything. First party, physical edition, indie. Nintendo just wants you to buy anything so you can play it on the go and have fun. Whereas PlayStation, they specifically, even if they won't come out and say it, I do think that the success of Helldivers, they actually announced its specific number, and so it's already sold 15 million copies, so it's already one of the biggest PlayStation.
Wasn't it 12?
Yeah, it was 12. Power World sold 15.
So where the hell is it getting 15 from?
Games of all time, and that launched both on Steam and on PS5. I think they're realizing that, okay, if we're going to try and make these perpetual living universes with updates and season passes and downloadable content and microtransactions and stuff, you have to make a game that's not just good, but is actually addictive. I think PS5 is starting to be them sort of testing the waters on making games that are truly addictive. Look, I love PlayStation games, but think about it. A lot of these are very one.
I mean, at the end of the day,
No kid.
no matter how you want to look at it, when you're looking at as a game developer, and this is going to sound really nasty, right? If I was making a live service game, and this is going to sound really bad, I would want that game to be the most addictive game that you've ever played. I would try
Absolutely.
and make it as addictive as humanly possible to the point where that is the only game you want to play, and the only game you want to live in, and the only game you want to spend money in. Because at that point,
I'd just like to point out that with this tweet right here from Hasdor Gaming showing sales of actual players, which we all know is MAUs, monthly active users,
Mhm.
that they are specifically trying to once again copy Xbox's strategy.
I mean, the whole maneuver is copying Xbox, and it's like I was telling my friend earlier today. Like, it reminds me of the whole Android and Apple race. Android comes out with a feature first. It's a bit rough on the edges, but they come out with it first. Apple then look at what they're doing, take it, polish it, and then release it. And then everyone praises Apple because their one runs it better, even though Android released it first. But because they released it first, they're in a little bit of a worse state, and it takes a little while for them to get to that polished state. That's essentially
This is true.
that's what I'm kind of seeing here. But everything that Sony is doing right now, they're following in the footsteps of Microsoft because they're seeing it's working for Microsoft. And look, they may not have the console sales that Sony does, but what is the one thing in video games that makes the most money? Anyway,
Microtransactions.
microtransactions. So if you have monthly active users at, say, 10 million, I'm just giving a silly number, but if you got it at 10 million, right, compared to someone else who has it at 2 million, and a lot of those games that they're playing have microtransactions. You think the shareholders care that they're not selling those consoles? No, they care that those 10 million people now have access to another store that they can spend more money rather than 2 million. And even if you've done it at 5% of those people spending money in the store, you're going to make a hell of a lot more money with that 10 million than you are with the 2 million. And that's where it's at. That's where the money is. And that's why earlier today, when I was talking about Call of Duty with Paris, that's what I was getting at. Those microtransaction money that's going to come in from COD, from PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, and COD Mobile will subsidize everything. They're going to make bank.
Not to mention Candy Crush with King.
They're going to make so much money, man.
And then done. Like,
maybe
I'm
they
not
can
even
give me
being
some.
a hater. I've beaten a lot of these games multiple times.
I'll
I've
just take
played
$1 million, it's fine.
Horizon 3 times. I've played God of War 3 times. I've played Last of Us about 15 times. But my point is the fact that
How do you play Last of Us 15 times?
I don't even know.
It's a one and done game. How? How do you do that? That's impressive. That clearly tells you that there's nothing else to play.
these
Impressively bad.
Yeah, impressively bad, because there's nothing there to play, so they're playing the same game over and over again. It explains how many remakes and remasters they've got.
single-player, narrative-heavy games, most people are going to beat them once. And while they do get that upfront $70 profit, what happens after that? I think PlayStation is attempting to sort of pivot towards the idea of, okay, how can we keep you engaged longer than just buying the game and maybe buying some DLC? But like these whole financial reports, I think show the fact that PlayStation is definitely in a good spot. They're definitely selling a crazy amount of games. This is the wildest one. Okay, so this Pio here left out a word, but this is games sold. In the last quarter, so just from January to March, PlayStation sold 72.6 million games. Holy heck, 12.3 million of those were first-party sales. Holy heck, monthly active users, 110 million. This
My dude
is
can't count.
staggeringly big. Like, actually
That's
seeing
wrong.
those numbers, I mean, it boggles the mind. 20, sorry, gosh, even reading it still blows my mind. So they sold 28 million copies. Sorry. Even looking at those numbers, just even trying to fathom that scale, it just doesn't make sense. The fact that they sold 20 million consoles and then 72 million games in 3 months. What in the heck? The power of PlayStation, I think this is where Xbox is getting jealous, because while Xbox is getting those play numbers, they're getting downloads, they got 10 million people to install Starfield. Who knows how many people actually beat it, because the game is not as fun as watching paint dry. But my point is that...
Have you noticed every single time he makes a point, he demeans Xbox to try and give himself... Sorry?
Validation, yeah.
He's trying to give himself, like you say, validation to the points. Like, if you are confident in what your preferred platform is actually selling, if you had the confidence in what they were doing, you wouldn't need to validate it by comparing it to another platform. Like,
but see, that number's also wrong from PO.
Which one?
The first two. Because if 72.6 million games were sold just between January and March, then that means that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Helldivers 2, and anything else that they've come out with in that time frame, because Foam Stars was in that time frame, don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
That means that those games would have all been a financial success.
Not necessarily. I mean,
but in addition to that 12.3 million, none of those were first party, except for Foam Stars, and even that's not first party.
I mean, Helldivers counts as first party. Helldivers, it will count as first party. It's a Sony-owned IP. It's a Sony,
but they didn't develop it.
But they fully funded.
It's a second party.
Like Phil Spencer said, if we own the IP and we pay for the development, it's a first party IP.
But that's the thing, Sony didn't.
Sony did. It's funded by Sony fully.
It's not funded by Sony.
Helldivers is their game. Why would they let someone else not fund it? And they also funded
the developer is Arrowhead.
Arrowhead is thing, but they funded the game.
But Stellar Blade is also just a third party.
Oh, Stellar Blade is definitely third party. Stellar Blade is third party, 100%. But Helldivers would fall into the first party category, and that would explain the 12.3 million, because they ain't going to be Foam Stars, that's for sure. Let's not get crazy now.
But that means that according to this, if it's correct, then that means their entire first party sales was literally the 12 million for Helldivers 2.
Yeah, that's it. That's
but
exactly
they didn't have anything else that was first party.
I mean, they did release the Last of Us update and the resale of the remaster, remake, remaster version that came out in January. That literally, I guess that didn't sell anything. Maybe it sold at 300,000. That's the 0.3. But that 12 million is Helldivers.
And 60 to 70% of that was PC players.
Sorry?
But I don't know where they're getting this 72.6 million sold of games between January and March.
I mean, that's not money, right? That's not money. The 72.6 million isn't money. I mean, they've had about 4 sales going on now, so people could have been buying games on their store for like £2, £5. These all add up, right? They've had crazy sales going on.
Or in PS Plus, yeah.
Yeah, they've had crazy sales going on. Like, they've had that Gundam game that's normally priced at 60 quid down to £6, for example. Anyone that was waiting for a sale would have picked that up. Like the I think it's called the Gundam Fairy Tale or something like that. But
yeah.
So I can definitely see the 72 million, because that's not money. That's just the number of games being sold, and that kind of blurs the line, because if that was 72 million at $70 each, that's a shit ton of money. But if that's 72 million at at £20, £10, £5, £30, then that changes it. And we already know 12 of those million from that 72 million is definitely at £30 because that's what Helldivers
Right.
is. And even then, they still lost the majority. They lost 30% of that because it was on Steam. So the majority of that 12 million was actually at 70%. So they even lost even more money there. So, these numbers are good. They look great on paper. And that's why they're designed to look that way. But they they actually don't tell you the story. Because they could have sold, 50 million games that were priced below £5. Where's the revenue in that? So it doesn't give you a true story of what it's actually reflecting. It's just giving you numbers that make the shareholders happy.
Now, we know from that picture that I put up earlier that the monthly active users at 118 million, that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give them that. I'm not so sure about the 77% digital ratio overall.
I mean, that just shows that more people are buying digital.
Keep in mind that we know most AAA games sell more physical.
But we don't know that.
Because don't forget that Baldur's Gate 3 also got the physical release between January and March.
Last year, we saw that the physical market was like 15-20%. Overall, for the whole year.
Board.
For the whole year for PlayStation. So that's actually in line with that. 15-20% is in line. I mean, the overall market is moving digital anyway. You've got the remnants that are still clinging on, but give it another generation or two, and it's going to be all digital. That's where it's going.
I'm just wondering about these people that are buying PS5 console after console after console.
What do you mean?
It makes no sense. Yeah, you're going to buy one console, maybe a second console. Either another standard base console or the quote-unquote pro version that comes out later in the life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But why are people going to buy more than two consoles? I can see it because,
it's quite easy. They're padding the numbers.
Play on ours, and I would buy a second one for my son upstairs.
But they've padded the numbers. They've already padded the numbers.
But
telling me
somebody said in the chat earlier, we do know that those numbers also count VR sales, accessories like the Portal, as console sales.
Whether that's true or not, I know that someone did say that, but this specifically said PS5. But just look at it this way. That 59.3 million units, and Jordan said he's got 10 PS5s, 2 per room. Whether he's joking or not, I don't know. But just 59 million units, right? I've got my old PS5, the launch PS5. Right?
Yeah.
If I go and sell that and buy the PlayStation Slim, that counts as 2 PS5s for me now. But it's still 1 MAU. I'm still one user, but now I've got 2.
And you no longer have your previous console, you only have the newer one.
Right. And anyone that buys that console doesn't even count to these numbers. But at the end of the day, now they're registering 2 units sold just for me. When you release a mid-gen refresh, your numbers get padded. When they release the PS5 Pro, they're not going to list PS5. Like let's say for example, I've got a PS5, yeah? I sell that because I want the Slim. And then the Pro comes out. So I sell that and buy the PS5 Pro. They've now registered 3 units just on me. And this is why the numbers are padded. So even then, I cannot take these numbers seriously because I still end up with only 1 PS5. But according to their numbers, they've actually sold 3 PS5s.
Yeah. And that is very true. Because Sony doesn't care and count about units that are returned.
Well, they can't track
whether
that,
it's
can they?
to upgrade, or whether it's to replace a damaged console.
Yeah, I mean they can't count that at the end of the day because secondhand stores are full of consoles. Like my local computer exchange has tons of PS5s, tons of Xboxes.
Absolutely.
They've got everything, but that's all profit for them.
The fact that PlayStation is definitely stacking up some raw profit that is truly, truly staggering to try and comprehend. All right, last slide. Take Him says this: PS5 sold a huge amount, even comparing it to the PlayStation 4, despite the fact that the PlayStation 4 by this point had a $100 price cut. Sony is forecasting that gaming is going to rise to the next 3 years to be recordly breaking good, but Helldivers 2 is the fastest selling PlayStation game ever since it moved 12 million copies in the first 12 weeks. Anybody who wants to try and doom and gloom PlayStation and say that they're not releasing enough, I think that I am definitely on the team where I wish PlayStation would release more. I'm definitely one of those hardcore gamers that wants there to be more big releases, and the fact that we're not going to get a single first-party game for this entire fiscal year definitely sucks, but I'm still curious to see how this pivot shakes out. If these rumored live service games that PlayStation is working on, and of course their typical big first-party stuff like the next Spider-Man, there's rumors of the new God of War, there's talk about a Lego Horizon Zero Dawn game being made, which I don't even know what to think about that. I think that PlayStation is definitely still in a healthy spot, but I'm still in a spot where I'm curious how this generation gets looked back upon. I think everybody loved the PlayStation 4. That thing was huge. It was getting constant great games. Whereas the pacing of the PS5, it's definitely different. But how do you guys feel about the current state of the PS5? I see a lot of people in the comment section over the course of the last couple of years saying, I want a PS5, I can't buy it. Then I saw a bunch of comments saying, I bought a PS5 and now I can't keep up with the games. And now I feel like I see a lot of people saying, where is Sony? Where's the next PlayStation showcase? Where is a slate to tell me why I should be?
That PlayStation showcase is somewhere over there. If you take a right and then a left and another right and keep on going straight, you may find it.
Hype.
Did you hear about
my
the latest
expensive
that
purchase.
they said? Did you hear about the latest that they said the new PlayStation showcase is going to drop before the Hellblade 2 game launches next week?
Nope. But I most sincerely
They've
doubt
been
that.
saying they've been saying that they are expecting a secret PlayStation showcase since what, Starfield, way back in October of last year,
Mate, they've been saying that for ages.
and we're still waiting.
This year will be looked upon as the start of Sony's death if they don't shape up. Yep. I mean, at the end of the day,
I agree with that.
a lot of this stuff is just like the number of consoles sold is so misleading, it's not even funny.
Okay, but tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video.
Okay, so that's the end of that video. And yeah, I don't know. Clearly they've made some, the numbers are looking good, but we're only seeing revenue. We're not seeing profit. We're not seeing
Some
how much
numbers
this
are
stuff is. They're showing cost anywhere. And that's what you clearly want to see. And honestly, these are the numbers that shareholders will like. But if they were in such a good financial position and in such a healthy state, why would they be needing PC? Why would they be needing PC? That's the bottom line.
I just thought that was funny.
I don't know, chat. You let me know in the comment section below. Let's have that discussion. I'll see you in the next one. Main Legend.